Hello and welcome to BlitPaint version 0.37. In this version I'm going to show you a couple of the new features. First off, we've got these little lights here next to this palette, bottom left. Now if you use the mouse wheel, you'll see you can make that change. Also if you press D, you can make this change, and this stands for draw mode. Now draw modes are just ways of painting your colours. So this first draw mode basically just samples this first colour and it will only ever draw in the first colour there. The second mode is a mix between the two colours at random, so you will get different variations of those two tones. That can also be useful for toning things up. So I'll just pick that colour again there, you'll see it makes variations. Back to that first one, you'll see it just tints it completely blue. Let's make a fresh sheet so we can see that. So that's draw mode 0, the bottom one, draw mode 1, and draw mode 2 is a little bit different. It actually uses a shader to analyse the grayscale of the little brush there, and this high color represents the brighter tones, and the low color here represents the darker tones. Now you can press W to swap these around and it's a bit more like it now. I'm just going to do Shift S to go into stamp mode. It only places one down. And let's choose two more dramatic colors. So you can see what this is doing. It's taking all the grey scale and then just making it this tone, and then the lighter tones are getting made into the lighter tone. So that can be useful for a cleaner look, and it doesn't take into consideration too much of the tones already built in. It actually kind of replaces them. Okay, so let's have a look at that again. So I'm going to use the mouse wheel and let's just turn stamp mode off. So there's mode 0, which is just this first colour here. If I press W I can swap that. I'm going to swap it back. Doesn't really matter because mode 2 will mix between the two of them. This one I prefer, but it only works if your brush is mainly kind of grayscale-ish, maybe a little bit of tone like this leaf here. I've added a little bit of orange, but kept it mostly grayscale. And mode 3 again is going to be the two tones. Bottom one's the darker one, top one's the lighter one. So if we go black and white, you'll see exactly what's happening here. And I can take any brush and do the same thing. Now the colours do get remembered per brush, but I'm in this mode and you'll see that I can stamp this down as a grayscale image. Let's just add a background there so you can see that. So just sample another colour. So that's what that's doing. It's taking this image, turn it into grayscale, and then analysing the dark and light tones and replacing them with these two tones. And that can be useful for a unique kind of look to things. And it also helps, for you to design things a certain way. Like if you know in this over here you see this part's white and the stem's quite dark, so if we press the right mouse button to get a darkish tone there and the left one to get a bright one, you can see what's happening. If I was to make the stem completely black, it's going to 100% pick up this colour, and the leaf's completely white, or the petal's completely white, it's going to 100% pick up this colour. Anything between will be a mix. But you can see I've got pretty much a lot of control of how I want this to look. Okay, what else is new? We've got some extra brushes been added. These are isometric tiles that I created for another pack a while ago, and plus there's this little number system up here for adding your own sprites. Now the way this works is, let's just clear everything. There's 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. This is how many splits your image is going to get turned into. So 1 will just be a single image brought in as a brush. 2, it will split it in 2 equal parts, left and right. 4, it will split it into 4 equal parts. 8, you can see where this is going, and 16. So ideally you'll have a strip of 16, a strip of 8, 4, 2 or 1. Now we can make these up. If you press G a few times, you'll get to this grid that I've created, and this is to help you conveniently make these sprites up. So let's see, I'll just take this grass for example. I'm going to press H to hide the UI, hold down S and move left and right just to scale that. I'm just going to plop in some of these grayscale looking grass bits here, right? So I'm not too worried about this all being white right now. I just want to show you what can happen here. So I'm making some variations up of this grass effect. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 images. I'm going to save that. Okay, I'm just going to call this grass clumps. So this helps us make sets of 4 images. You don't see this background, by the way. So I'm just going to hide that and go to a new brush. Right, I'm going to set it to 4 because that's how many splits I gave this image that it saved out. I'm going to add it. Now when you save, it saves a whole image, plus it saves this sprite 4 image. Okay, so I've only set one up for 4 sprites, but later there'll be ones for setting up 8 and 16, but you see that will reduce the size. So I'm just going to load this in. I've got split 4 on, and now that's loaded. I'm going to press 5 on the number pad to center the axis. In fact, I'm going to press 2 to put it to the bottom. So you can see if I press 8, 5 or 2, I can change the offset. And that's gave me this whole new brush. I'm just going to clear everything and press G to take us back to normal. Okay, I'm going to choose 2 colors. We're in this mode where the grayscale actually changes the colors here. I'm going to do that, and let's see what I can get here. W to swap. So based on the grayscale of that image, that's what's happening. I'm going to use my mouse wheel to go down to mode 1 where it's just this green, and mouse wheel up to my favourite one, which is a mix between the two, and it gives us loads of variation. Now you see, as I plop this down, I get all those 4 variations that I'd created in different tones. Maybe I don't want those tones to be so different, but you can see what's happening here. It could almost be hair or fur or something, couldn't it? In fact, let's do that. So I'm going to hold down X and make this a little bit shorter, and S to scale it up. Let's do that again. Backspace. Now you see I've got almost like these little hair clumps that I could use to make fur, but why not make it wrap around something? So if I do Control R, I can make this follow the mouse. And if it's a little bit too abrupt, just turn catch up down, and it will kind of follow the mouse a bit. See, there's a little bit of latency to it now, and we can really make a nice fur collar or a fur ball or something like that. And you could save that out and bring it back in again as an image. In fact, let's do that as well. So let's just make this tone a little bit darker first. Let's choose 2 tones. It doesn't have to be brown, but we'll make it brown anyway, brownish. We can always change these tones up later. Right, that's going to do for my fur ball, right? So I'm just going to do Control S, and I'm going to call this fur ball. Right, and then I'm going to change this to 1, so I'll just click on it a few times till it goes to 1. I'm going to add in our fur ball. Now you see this one, it's tried to make a sprite 4 out of it. This happens by default. I don't have any way to switch this off right now, but I will have later. But I'm testing everything, and you know, so far so good. So I've got a really big fur ball image now. I'm going to bring catch up. I'm just going to clear everything, and now I've got this fur ball. I can make even more things. In fact, I can use my shaders on it. Let's see what a couple of tones would do for this. That's quite nice, right? Press W, and you get the opposite. Backspace. Now I'm going to press 4 for 40% opacity, and you can see I can get a nice fur ball look. Let's also do Control R so that it rotates. There we go, we're getting a kind of mink type of fur thing happening. Now you can save this out, or whatever. You can bring in an image to the backdrop, bring in a reference image. To bring in a reference, do Alt R, and then L to load. And you can load in a character or something, whatever it might be. Let's load in this little scene I did before. I'm just going to scale up and middle mouse click so it fills the screen, and if I hold down Shift and mouse wheel, I can fade that out, and I can trace over some parts. I can use any layer. This is just a backdrop for reference, and I can choose what I want to add some fur to, right? So I'm going to do some little fur bits like this, and later on I could take this out in Photoshop or something and merge these together. Okay, so I'm just going to take that away and show you a few other things. So that looks quite nice. It doesn't really move around too much, so we can do some rotational range for a little bit of rotational scatter there. Okay. We can also scatter the actual object. So it scatters around like this. Okay, let's see what the other color modes do. That one mixes between the 2 tones, already on top of the tone that it is. Let's bring that opacity back up. That's interesting. It's okay. It's not brilliant, but it's interesting. Let's bring that opacity back down again. Quite like the fur thing that we had without the scatter. Right. Now there's another thing that you can do. You can actually use something called Ninja Brush. And Ninja Brush gives us the ability to basically make it bigger as we move quicker. So if we're using the mouse for everything, if you move quickly, that gets bigger. And using catch up with that can be quite nice. Okay, I really want a lot of catch up, and I really want to make it much smaller. So now it's set quite high, so it is going to get quite big. The smaller that is, and then I just have to move a little bit faster, and that gets bigger. Now it could be useful for you, but it's just there in case you want it. It can be quite nice for doing writing and things. Okay, so we've got a fur ball here. What else can we do with this? We can change the spacing of it. Let's do a little bit of catch up. Turn ninja brushing down. We'll just turn rotational range off or right down. and you can see you can really space that out the way you want to, or not. Now let's see what the shaders do again. So this one is the foreground and background colours multiplied into the actual object. Another thing you can do is if you hold down L, it's going to, oops, let's just do Alt R to turn off that. So if you hold down L, it's going to lock the pixels and you can draw over these. And if you go for a low opacity by pressing 2 or something, or you can set the opacity here and hold down F, you can change it to an additive mode and you can kind of make a kind of glow here. Now if you hold down left and right mouse buttons, it becomes an eraser, or you can hold down Z while you draw, and that's driven by opacity, so you can really kind of crop bits away here. You can also reorder layers, so if I've drawn something in this layer here, let's just say some two tones a bit more obvious, so there's a layer here and I want to draw something in between, I can just mouse wheel down or mouse wheel this up and I've now got 2 layers in between that I can play with. If I don't want to work with layers anymore, I can just press B and that will just put everything down into one layer at the bottom. Okay, you can also fill the background with solid colours or gradients. Bit like that. Okay, so that's about it for this video. I hope you liked watching this and I hope you liked using this tool. It's really useful. One thing I forgot to show you was the cool isometric grid, but I've covered this maybe a previous video, and feel free to use the little isometric tiles that I've created. And I'm quite curious to see what you make, so feel free to post in the Discord. I'll put the Discord link below in the description, and yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.